remember, this isn't strictly just grappling. So what he shows is working a lot better. Is I'm going to take the side of my head and just start headbutting the hell out of Michael. Today's class is Grund is Munsi, which we'll get into what exactly that translates to later. But the whole point of this class is we're going to be discussing ground wrestling in HEMA. And if you read through any of the manuals, through any of the sources, you'll notice it doesn't really show up all that much. So you might be wondering how we're making a whole class out of this. The first thing I want to point out is that ground grappling is HEMA, kind of. There's many different types of ring-in. It's really just a bad word that we use to describe historical wrestling. It literally just translates. It's just the German word for wrestling. But there's many different types of historical wrestling outside of ring-in. I mean, we have, obviously you hate it when I call it just ring-in because we have abrazare, which is just Italian for to embrace. We've got different styles of grips that we use in specific types of wrestling. So we've got like back hold, we've got belt wrestling, we've got collar and elbow. If we go over to the Scandinavian countries, we have glima, which is, depending on if you're using a modern historical rule set, the historical one is also just a harness wrestling style. They have schwingen. We could go to different regions of Europe and we could do French wrestling, which later became what you all are probably more familiar with, which is Greco-Roman. English wrestling alone could mean something from the regions of Cumberland, Westmoreland, Lancashire, or Cornish wrestling. And some of you are also probably familiar with something called catch as catch can wrestling. Have all of you heard of that before? Okay, I'm seeing a couple of hands. I'm seeing some people that don't know. Catch as catch can wrestling, or the shorter version, which is just calling it catch, is a pin and submission wrestling style that was very popular in England, that involved fighting on the ground specifically. So you might be wondering, why aren't we just teaching that? Why are we looking at the sources instead? And that's because, and Jason might be upset by this, we talked about this beforehand, catch is not HEMA. It's historical, it's from Europe, and it's a martial art, but it's not HEMA. The reason being, catch wrestling never died. Catch wrestling still has a very large, thriving scene. It's still used today in mixed martial arts. Even though it kind of died out here in the US and eventually became what y'all know as professional wrestling, the competitive, non-scripted aspects of it migrated from Europe and the United States to Japan, where it is thriving. There's tons of gyms that still teach it today. It's used, it was used in Pride Fighting Championship. It's used in 1FC. It's used in the UFC. It's got famous practitioners like Kazushi Sakuraba, Eric Paulson, and your friend, Josh Barnett. There's a catch wrestling gym you can go to Boston right now and visit if you want to learn the style. So, yeah, later. So it's not HEMA, right? Because a big part of HEMA is that we're taking these things that were once dead and we're bringing them back to life. You could think of it almost as like what Olympic fencing is to HEMA, catch is to historical wrestling. So what we call ring-in today, it's not really a historical rule set, right? They didn't write down like this is how our competitions are done. It's more of a modern attempt to incentivize wrestlers to use specific techniques from historical manuals. And we put an emphasis on standing throws and ending the match after the throw is complete. A, because it's by far the most commonly demonstrated techniques in the manuals. And B, to be honest, it's just the easiest to judge, right? A lot of people don't have experience with fighting on the ground, so they don't know what they're looking at when people get down there. But ground grappling is insanely useful. It's an invaluable skill for a martial artist. There's a statistic that says 90% of fights go to the ground, which is bullshit. It's a made-up number, right? But it is kind of a true idea, right? The longer a fight goes on, the higher the percentage that you're going to end up on the ground, and you better know what to do when you get there. MMA has proven that it is an invaluable tool in an unarmed fight. So if that's the case, why doesn't it show up in any of the manuals, right? There's a couple different reasons behind that. In an armed fight, like a duel or on the battlefield, being on the ground generally means you're dead. And most HEMA manuals deal with these specific aspects. Generally speaking, you're going to get stabbed, you're going to die, or on a battlefield, you're going to get trampled by your enemies or even your friends. There was also a cultural stigma against fighting on the ground. It's worth remembering that the manuals that we read and study from, by and large, were written for nobles, and fighting on the ground was specifically for peasants. There are historical accounts of nobles getting in trouble with their relatives because when they were supposed to be going to church on Sunday, they would go fuck off to the local tavern, strip down to their underwear, and wrestle with the peasants. And it brought great shame on their family for it. In fact, Pedro Monte, in his manual that I have a hell of a time pronouncing, De Diagnos Descendis Hominibus, somebody correct me in the comments, written in 1492, discussing wrestling in Germany, Bohemia, Poland, and Hungary, said of their local style that they commonly grab the legs with their hands. They consider all things permissible in order to overcome their opponent, and most damning, in the regions that I have mentioned, they not only grab each other's legs while wrestling, they also wrestle with their feet and hands on the ground like quadrupeds. But nature ordained for us to stand upright on 2 feet, holding our head high, a matter also approved by reason through generations of study. So, if someone spurns the option that both nature and reason consider superior to follow the less, should they not be faulted? So my judgment on that matter? Fuck Pedro Monte. And fuck his stupid wrestling manual. It doesn't even have pictures. What the fuck? He died in the Battle of Agdello like a stupid dumbass. So where does ground grappling show up in the manuals? Well, there's a couple plates that you'll find scattered around in between the various sources. Very few of them are actually systemized and say, do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. It shows up in a couple places, but a lot of times they just kind of expect you to end up there. So sources that we're using in this class is, by and large, Nicholas Pieter, who covered ground grappling extensively, but we're also stealing a bit from Talhofer, from von Baumann, from D. Bloom, and from Paulus Call. A lot of these techniques show up in multiple of these manuals, so we're kind of picking and choosing which manual was the easiest to interpret, but they show up repeatedly. So they must have used these, they must have passed them on, they must have been really commonly used. The techniques taught today are not all the techniques that you will find in the manuals. It's honestly a lot of them. It's almost like 3/4 of the various techniques I was able to find, going through every single thing on Wichtenauer. But what we're doing is we're taking different stuff and finding what chains well together to try to come up with something a little bit more systemized. And we're also going to be, is everybody here familiar with the concept of frog DNA? Okay. For those of you that don't know, who here has seen Jurassic Park? Okay. When you saw Jurassic Park, if you knew anything about dinosaurs, did you ever wonder why they don't look like birds and why they look like reptiles? They explain it in Jurassic Park by saying, well, everybody thought they were supposed to look like reptiles, and we didn't have full DNA, so we just took frog DNA and spliced it in where there was missing stuff. That's kind of what we're doing here. We're going to take stuff from Catch, we're going to take stuff from BJJ, and we're going to use it to bring the stuff that's in the manuals into a more full system. I said I was going to say where the name of this class comes from. The title is Grund is Munsi, which is it's a really poorly translated version of the ground is my sea. Have any of you heard this phrase before? It's a famous Gracie saying, which the more you hear it, the more cringy it gets. But the first time you hear it, it's pretty badass, which is, the ground is my sea and I am a shark, and most people don't even know how to swim. So today you're all going to learn how to swim a little bit. Okay, we're at least going to get you treading water. We're going to start this first combination with a technique that is from a whole bunch of manuals. I'm pulling it from von Baumann. And this shows up both in wrestling and dagger. Let's say Michael goes ahead and grabs my lapel right here, other hand. Michael's threatening me. They're going to beat me up. They're going to punch me. They're going to draw a dagger, something like that. I don't want this to happen. So I need to address this grip first. What I'm going to do is with my left hand, I'm going to reach over the top. I'm going to grab the meat of Michael's hand, which is this part right in here, okay? We're not grabbing the small joints. That does show up in some wrestling, but we're not going to do that today because we don't want no broken fingers. So we're going to grab the meat of the hand right here, and I'm going to turn it over. As I do, it's going to rotate Michael's arm and Michael's shoulder, and I'm going to help that along. I'm going to reinforce a little bit by putting this hand on their elbow and turning them over like this, okay? From here, I need to actually get Michael down to the ground. I could just force it straight down, but that's kind of a jerk move. That could end up breaking Michael's arm. So instead, I'm just going to spin Michael around as I push down. And that's going to get Michael down, hopefully down onto their stomach, okay? If they roll over, there's other things we can do from there. But for this specific technique, we're trying to get them just like this, okay? And if you want, since we're going to be following them down to the ground, to follow up from there, when you do this throw, you can go down with them to kind of gain more control, okay? So we're going to do a follow-up from there. We're going to go with a move from Tallhofer, and then we're going to chain into a move from Paulus Call. All right, so we'll start with the throw right from the beginning. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to drive Michael down to the ground. Can everybody see what I'm doing? Okay, so from here, this could just straight up be an arm bar, right? We could just torque on the arm, but Michael's not going to just let that happen, right? Michael's going to try to resist, get their arm pulled away. So if you're not in a very strong, controlling position, it's not a good idea to really go for a submission. What you want to do is establish a good position first. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Michael into a full Nelson. I'm going to take this arm, and I'm going to weave it under here. You see what I'm doing? Going basically for an underhook that's going to come around. This hand's going to go behind their neck. And then I'm just going to take my leg and hop right up on top. From here, I'm going to do the same thing with this arm. Get this underhook right behind the neck. All right? I know. Now, Tallhofer specifically shows the leg down here. This provides some control. I don't think he would have minded if you brought this leg over a little bit to get a little bit more control. But since we're trying to stay close to the manuals, let's just keep this leg right down the center line. From here, I could do a submission. I could just crank on this full Nelson, and Michael ends up tapping, because that's very uncomfortable, isn't it? So that's a submission we can go with, but let's go with something a little bit meaner, okay? Yeah. So Michael's going to be struggling. Michael doesn't want to get this full Nelson in. So I'm going to take this leg, and now I'm going to slide it up the body, and I'm going to keep bringing these knees up to the head as I get into a sitting position. Yes. Look, it's stuck already. That cranks the full Nelson in even harder. But the full Nelson is not even our goal here. The actual goal is to get a neck crank. So from here, I've got these legs in position, so Michael has a hard time doing anything. I'm going to release the grip on the neck. I'm going to come out, grab the chin, and pull backwards. Anybody got any questions on that one? Does anybody need to see it again? Yes, I missed it. Okay.
Let's turn this way this time.
Yeah.
Here, let's just you finish the throw.
So we finished the throw. I'm going to take this hand, work the underhook to the back of the head, and then I can start working the underhook over here, or I can go into position first. They're not specific as to which. The main goal is just to get this full Nelson position, okay? Again, I could crank right here to get this tap, but it's not super good. Michael might be able to struggle, right? So instead, yeah, exactly. I'm going to start working my way up, and as I do, I'm going to keep this full Nelson locked in as I just straight up sit on Michael's back. Release, go for the chin, pull up. Good. And they're either going to start feeling that in one of two places. Most likely it's going to be in the neck, or it could be in the spine, depending on how good your grips are or where you're sitting. Now we're going to move on to one that's a bit more complicated, because that was pretty simple, right? It didn't really take a lot of technical expertise. So we're going to work on a technique. We're going to start moving this stuff from Pieter. He is a later period source, but he's got one of the most beautifully illustrated wrestling manuals I've seen, and he starts covering it from more of a self-defense angle. So a lot of his stuff actually involves what happens when you end up on the ground. We're going to start with a throw that I actually don't want you guys doing, but we're going to demonstrate it because it's part of the whole chain that he shows. And this shows up in several manuals. It was apparently a very popular throw, but just because it was popular doesn't mean that I think that they liked it, because Thalhofer specifically refers to it as the peasant's throw or the knave's throw. I've seen a lot of people in modern grappling arts call it a monkey throw. The reason being, Michael and I are fighting. We're going to get collar and elbow grips. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squat down. I'm going to take my foot, put it right in Michael's stomach, and I'm going to fall backwards. Some of you already know what this is. We're going to see how this goes. I just got back from knee surgery, so I might scream and that might be the end of the class. But
We did it before the class. It was okay that time.
we got to remind us?
Yeah.
All right, ready?
As I'm going to be.
So we're not going to have you do that one, because I don't want anybody landing on their head. But this is the throw that he starts this whole sequence from. So from there, if Michael tries doing the same throw to me, there's a counter to it. And it is as soon as Michael puts their foot, do the other foot. Okay. As soon as Michael puts their foot up here, I'm just going to lift up on it. That's it. It's pretty easy. And then what's really interesting is that from here, Pieter shows us the only heel hook that I was able to find in a HEMA manual. Some of you have prior grappling experience. Are you familiar with a heel hook? Okay. You all know they don't teach heel hooks to white belts, right? The reason being because this can be a bit of a dangerous technique, because what we're targeting here is the MCL and the ACL, which are the ligaments on the side of the knee. The pain receptors in those ligaments will not kick in until it's almost too late. So, when you do this technique to your partner, I want you tapping well before it hurts. As soon as you start feeling resistance, as soon as you start feeling like, hey, my leg shouldn't go that way, that's when you're tapping, okay? Should probably look around here. That's it, okay? The way we're doing this is right after I do that counter where I just lift their leg up, I'm taking my left hand, putting it on the heel, right hand's coming up to the tootsies, and I'm twisting it clockwise, okay? That's going to twerk out this knee right here, and that's going to either shred Michael's ACL or it's going to just make them roll over. It's going to do something that's going to really benefit me. The counter to this is equally easy as the previous counter. As I start going for this, that's all Michael's got to do is just kick this hand away, okay? From here, we're going to turn this into a pinning technique, okay? Because Michael just kicked this leg up, and that's going to expose them to getting their guard passed. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to take this leg, I'm going to bring it to the inside and over to this. Now from here, I'm taking this arm, and I'm bringing this behind the leg and up to Michael's neck. And then I'm taking this hand and pinning it down to the mat, all right? There's no finish or submission from here. There's nothing he says to do after this. This is just the pinning technique that he demonstrates, okay? I'm sure a lot of you realize if you squat down, you feel like you have a lot more control, right? That's what you're looking for. However, in the manual, he specifically shows your opponent as standing when they have this pin. And I personally think it's because they need to be standing in order for you to do counter. If they've already pinned you down, it's too late. This counter is kind of meant to be done in transition. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right leg, bring it right up in here, basically behind Michael's knee. And then an important thing to realize in HEMA ground fighting is that it is not, strictly speaking, just friendly grappling. There are quite a few techniques, especially in Pieter, where he's a dick to the other person and does some things that would be illegal or cheating or just dirty tricks. One of them in this case being, I'm going to get this hand free by just straightening it out, and then I'm going to come over and I'm going to grab Michael's hair. And then I'm going to take this hand and I'm also going to grab Michael's hair.
Christ.
And then you see I've got my wrists crossed? I'm going to pull and push to turn their head. And from here, I'm going to kick this leg that's still up and just kick them over. And from here, we'll pause here and then we'll go over what to do after this. If your partner is not comfortable having their hair pulled, because who would be comfortable with that? Or if they don't have long hair, an alternative that I've discovered that can also work. Go ahead and get that pin again. Standing, please, because you're a terrible grappler in this demo.
Yeah, this demo.
Yeah, in this demo. Straighten the arm out, same basic idea, but instead of grabbing the hair, I'm going to grab the chin and the back of the head. And I'm just going to turn them this way to achieve the same effect. After you did the sweep, I'm sure a lot of you ended up right here, right? With this arm trapped under your leg, okay? Some of you that might have been a little bit uncomfortable because that can be a submission hold, but it's probably not actually going to get the submission all the way locked in, right? So what can we do from here to improve our chances? Because I'm not in a dominant position right here. Michael could easily square him away. Exactly. So we want to maintain control of where we just got after that sweep. The way we're going to do this is we're going to go into what's called side control, but we're going to do it in a way that Talhofer recommends. Or I'm sorry, I think this is D. Bloom. Pretty sure it's D. Bloom, my bad. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to take this leg that's currently on top of Michael, and we're actually going to kick it back over here, and we're going to bring our body up like this. The idea is we want their arm trapped in between our leg. A real ideal position for this is if you can do this, where you're just straight up sitting on it. Because, Michael, go ahead and try to squirm out of that. Yeah. The main goal here being that Michael can't get their arm free. Now, why is this important in HEMA? Because very often we are not fighting in strictly an unarmed versus unarmed scenario, right? If we were doing jiu-jitsu or wrestling or any other kind of grappling art, we're not as worried about that arm. We might want them to do something with that arm so we can take advantage of it. Yeah, throw me a dagger.
So where'd you gonna throw? Just gonna fucking smack you right in the face.
So in HEMA, it's not always an unarmed environment. And if I get side control in the normal way, I'm just getting shanked. So what I want to do is make sure that if there's a dagger in play, or if I'm worried a dagger might come into play, I want to make sure they can't do anything with this arm, right? A lot harder to stab me now. So that takes care of this arm. What do we do with this arm? Well, he shows what shows up in other grappling styles as something like a gift wrap. Let me rotate you this way. Also, give me that. What we're going to do is Michael's going to be fighting me with this hand. I'm just going to pin it down to the mat, grab it with this hand, and pull it
be nice to the
under
shoulder.
their head. Yeah, try to be. All right.
Oh, you're not going for the Americana?
Nope.
Oh.
Michael, try to struggle out from here. This is an incredibly powerful pinning position. All right. With Michael's arm behind their head, they cannot get it free. I've got a very powerful grip right here. And if they can't get their arms free, then the only thing they have to attack with is their legs and their torso. So what do we do when we have this control? Well, remember, this isn't strictly speaking just wrestling. This is a fight. And if I have both of Michael's arms pinned and I have one arm free, what do you think the ideal solution from here is? I'm going to get up onto my knees and just start raining down hammer blows. Okay? So one more time. I do the sweep to Michael. You guys can skip the sweep if you're having trouble with it. You want to just move on to the next technique. So we're going to start from here. I'm going to get this leg free of their body. I'm going to come up into side control with that arm pinned. Get this wrist behind their head and just start raining down simulated blows. Okay? So this one, again, starts from Pieter because he, like I said, by far and away the most sources of ground fighting in HEMA. This one, the throw we're going to start with is going to be a modified arm drag. Okay? Normally we see an arm drag, it's done as a back take. This is a way to utilize it as an actual throw. So Michael and I are fighting. Same side hand is going to grab Michael's wrist, and then this hand is going to come behind the elbow. The hand grabbing the elbow is actually doing most of the work in this. This hand is just kind of guiding it so that when I pull, Michael can't just like stop me, right? So I'm just getting this hand out of the way while this does all the work. I'm going to push this hand to my outside and then pull on the elbow. That's a normal arm drag. We're going to do this a little bit differently. Instead of trying to pull Michael past me, I'm pulling Michael down to the ground. Okay? You're not going all the way down. Don't worry about it. I'm just trying to off-balance Michael. This isn't the throw in and of itself. So once I get Michael off-balance, I'm going to take this leg behind Michael's leg so that they can't use this to regain their balance. Then I'm just going to take my head and push. All right, this one is all about using your head as a fifth limb when it comes to wrestling, okay? So one more time. Let me rotate you this way so they can get it from a different angle. Grabbing the wrist, grabbing the elbow, pulling straight down. I'm going to get this leg behind Michael's leg, get my head on their chest, and push with my head. Okay? After that, yeah, I was just going to say, after you do that throw and get them to the ground, just go down there with them. Just pin them down chest to chest, and then we'll move on to the next technique from here, okay? So we're going to do that throw. And if you don't want to do the whole throw, you can just start from down here. But what we're doing from here is we are getting into mount, basically. I'm going to take this leg. I'm just going to come up over Michael. I'm going to grab their lapel with my left hand at the neck. I'm going to pin this hand down, and I'm going to get this leg, and he specifically shows a grapevine around the leg, like this. This can be kind of painful for Michael if I start pulling it this way. They'll probably be fine, though. What's going to bother Michael a lot more is that what... You good?
A little less weight on the shoulder.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. What Pieter shows from here is instead of going for a submission, remember, this isn't strictly just grappling. So what he shows is working a lot better, is I'm going to take the side of my head and just start headbutting the hell out of Michael. Okay? Now, Is that simple enough? Can we work on that one in addition to some other stuff? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get this position. I'm going to be doing simulated head blows to Michael. And Michael obviously doesn't want this. This sucks, right? This is going to knock them out. So Michael's going to do what's called a frame on my neck. You already know this, yeah? Just pushing out like this. And then once we get established enough, like I can't raise his blows from here, right? And Michael's going to try framing the other arm as well. And this is where I want you guys to pause, okay? So, do the throw, get into mount, get the grapevine, do the head blows, and then have your partner frame. Sorry to rush through this, but we are already over time, and I need to show you guys this one because everybody has seen this picture from Von Bauman, and everybody that's tried it agrees that it works, but nobody knows how the hell to get there. Today we're going to show you how to get there, and this is how to hold a prisoner hostage. We're going to start from that same position that we were just in. So we're in mount. I'm doing these blows to the head. I've got this arm pin. I've got this leg grapevine. Michael's going to frame like they were doing before to try and defend against those headbutts, okay? This is great for me because anytime you're grappling somebody and they just stick their arms straight out, you could do something with those arms. So one thing Tallhofer shows is a position in mount that's a little bit different than what you see in like a lot of modern grappling sports. Right now, this is mount usually. Tallhofer shows this, which is not the most stable position, right? Like you could sweep me pretty easily from here, it feels like. Yeah. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, why the hell does he show this? And the reason is because you're not supposed to just sit here. This is the start of a much better move. And what I'm going to do is as Michael's framing out with their arms trying to keep me away, I'm going to take this arm and I'm going to take this leg. I'm just going to start turning Michael over with it until Michael's arm is trapped in between my legs as Michael is belly down. If Michael actually starts struggling in a real situation, this is all I have to do. Just lean forward and the shoulder breaks. All right, you okay? Okay. Additionally, I can just start raining down blows. I can call my friends over. I have a lot of different options. If Michael starts struggling super hard and I don't want to break their shoulder, I just lay down on top of them. They're still not going anywhere. All right? Super, super powerful position. There's a reason they show it as a way to hold hostages, because you have all the power and they can't go anywhere. So one more time. Go ahead and get on your back. We're in this position where I've got this leg grapevine. Michael's going to frame with their arms, so I can't headbutt them anymore. I'm going to take this leg, slide it up, and then I'm going to start just bringing the leg over this way and pushing against their arm and start turning them over. And if you get their arm stuck here, that's okay. If they don't have a lot of strength from here, just pick it up, move it to the inside. All right. I know that was a little weird. Does anybody need to see it again? All right, cool. Rock and roll. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll let you guys go. If anybody has any questions or feedback, feel free to grab me, let me know. Like I said, this is my passion. I could talk about this all day, so feel free to come up. We can get some rounds in if you want as well. But that's my class. Thanks, Kyle.